With music like that, I'm tempted to just go home and leave it for another day. I was on the Upper East Side the other day. I got there by mistake, of course. But it was a beautiful spring day, and so I decided to walk back here, where I belong, through Central Park. As I walked west, past or towards Belvedere Castle, on that path that overlooks Turtle Pond, there were dozens and dozens of people lining the path, all of them with binoculars or those cameras with long lenses, peering towards the pond. So I stopped and I looked, and I looked, and I saw nothing. Finally, I overcame my natural shyness, and I asked a couple of them what they were looking at. Without lowering their binoculars, they pointed silently. And I saw nothing. I knew there was something there. Something remarkable was right there. Because these dozens and dozens of people were looking at something, but I saw nothing. I don't see it, I said to them. One of them turned to me and said, condescendingly, "You must be looking in the wrong place." In the Easter story, according to Luke, the women disciples come looking for something, but they don't see what they're looking for. They don't see who they're looking for. They know who they're looking for, but they don't see the one that they came looking for. And they are understandably perplexed. Suddenly, they're joined by two strangers in dazzling clothes. Actually, dazzling doesn't quite do it. The original Greek word here is mostly used in the Gospels to describe lightning, and it means blindingly bright, like a flash of lightning. Luke tells us that the women are terrified, and that's why they bow their faces to the ground. But I don't know. I don't think so. These women are not easily frightened. Look what they've done. These are the women who left their homes back up north in Galilee and journeyed with Jesus to Jerusalem despite constant threats along the way. These are the women who were not afraid to stay with Jesus even to the cross. After Peter, who was supposed to be the rock, denied ever knowing Jesus, and most of the others scattered and hid. These are the same women who were brave enough to follow his body to the cemetery for Christ's sake, literally for Christ's sake. These are the women who keep showing up, no matter where, no matter when, no matter what. These are women who model who and how we could be as we try to be followers of the one they followed. And yes, they are temporarily blinded, but not by fear, but by the flashy clothes of these strangers who came to stand respectfully beside them. So yes, they are staring at the ground, but surely staring at the ground beats staring into an empty tomb. Now, these two strangers seem to know who and what the women are looking for, and what they're not seeing. They don't see it. And so these strange angels or men or whoever they are ask the women a question. Why do you look for the living among the dead? Why do you look for the living among the dead? Why search a cemetery for a dead Jesus? There is no dead Jesus. There is no dead Jesus. Yes, as we know, Jesus was wrongfully accused by those who should have known better. Yes, he was unlawfully arrested by officers taken with their petty authority. Yes, he was unjustly condemned at a hasty trial. Not much of a trial, but at least he had one. Yes, he was condemned despite his innocence. Yes, he was cruelly tortured and sentenced to death. Yes, he was executed by the state, these strangers seem to say. But did you think that the callous and capricious cruelty of some government could be more powerful than the compassion of a living God? Yes? Really? Did you think that could be so? Lately, like some of you, I've been wrestling with resurrection. And it's not about Jesus. I'm okay with Jesus. I believe in a place deep inside me that Jesus rose from the dead. But I've been wrestling in these last weeks and months with what resurrection means for the rest of us. There are days when I say, almost out loud, I don't see it. I don't see it. If you know me, you know I'm not terribly religious, except that God keeps butting into my life in ways that I can't ignore. And Jesus keeps interfering with my idea of myself and what I'm here on the planet to do. If you know me, you probably sense that I'm not all that spiritual, except that the Spirit keeps ambushing me at strange times and strange places, and sometimes even here in church. The Spirit keeps filling me with a sense of joy that is frankly inexplicable in light of everything going on in the world. If you know me, you know that despite many years of graduate theological education, I am more confused than ever about the mind and heart of God. If you know me, you know that despite years of reading and occasionally teaching Christian ethics, I'm more baffled than ever at a world which, in the words of the poet William Butler Yeats, the best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. And so there is a part of me that thinks that resurrection is just fine for Jesus, fine for the Jesus who, despite the best efforts of a cruel and callous and capricious government, is still with us and still beside us and still working through us. But what about those places and people who know no resurrection? What about the places and people who deserve compassion and get none? What about the places and people who deserve life and instead are dealt death? Can we see any life, any chance of living in these places of death? Looking around, I see plenty of crucifixion, but not a lot of resurrection. I'm going to be honest, I don't see a lot of resurrection. Plenty of crucifixion and not a lot of resurrection. Can we still hope? Can we still hope for hope? But you know, our story goes on. Luke's gospel says the women are perplexed until they realize they've been looking in the wrong place for the wrong thing. And only then they can take in these strange words. He is not here. He is not here. He is risen. Only then these two strangers invite them to remember what he told you when he was still in Galilee, that the human one will be handed over to cruel, callous, and capricious people and be crucified. And on the third day, he will rise again. Remember? Remember? And then, only then, they begin to see it. Only then they begin to see resurrection. It's just a glimpse, to be honest. It's just a glimpse, but it's a glimpse of the possibility of resurrection, a glimpse of the possibility of the reality of resurrection for Jesus and maybe for them. And so the women run home. They're still confused and overwhelmed, but they're excited and they're full of joy. And they find the apostles, those men who had gone to ground, gone into hiding, afraid, and they tell them about the empty tomb. They tell them about the missing Jesus, about the news, not of a dead Jesus. There is no dead Jesus. They tell them the news about a living Jesus, about a glimpse of the possibility of resurrection, a glimpse of the possibility of resurrection for them. And these women are singing, "This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away." And they share that joy. They share that truth. They share that news with the men disciples, and they don't believe them. That's not surprising, because Easter doesn't fit into a world like theirs, a world filled with soldiers, a world run by a callous and capricious and cruel government, any more than it fits in a world like ours, a world filled with images of bombs raining down on innocents from Congo to Sudan to Gaza to Ukraine. Easter doesn't fit in a world like that. It doesn't fit in a world where people live in fear of being victimized, marginalized, not by anything they did, but who they are. Easter doesn't fit in a world where people are being disappeared like it's Argentina in the 70s. It doesn't fit. Easter doesn't fit in this world of ours. How does the promise of new life, even the possibility of life, how does that fit in a world so swept up in the things of death? So these men, disciples, can't believe in an empty tomb. They can't see the possibility of resurrection. They don't see it. They don't see it. But Peter sees the women. He gets that they're telling the truth, that they are sharing some incredible news, that they have glimpsed something true. So Peter gets up, and Peter runs to the tomb, and Peter sees what? Were you paying attention? Yeah, some linen cloths sitting by themselves. Oh, okay. He sees some linen cloths sitting by themselves, and Peter, sure, could also say, "I don't see it." But you know what Peter really sees? He sees the possibility of resurrection. He sees the possibility that life, not death, has the last word. And maybe that's what we have today at this Easter. Maybe that's what we have. Maybe that's what we can see this Easter. A glimpse of the possibility of resurrection. Yesterday, I showed up very late to the Earth Day March in defense of migrants and the planet. Sure, I wanted to go, but there were things to do, Easter, and the weight of life to overcome. So I got there very late. There was an older woman standing there wearing that button from the 70s that says, "War is not healthy for children and other living things." And she looked like she'd been marching for compassion, justice, sanity, and peace ever since the 70s. And this woman had tears in her eyes as drummers were drumming and generations of people were filing past. She spotted Charlene's sign, that simply read, "Justice and joy." And she said, "Joy. Joy, that's what's going to save us. Don't let go of that joy. We can't let go of that joy." I know deep in my soul that resurrection happened. It happened for Jesus. It happens for us. And when I pay attention, I catch a glimpse of it. When I really look, I can see it. I can see it. I want us all to really look. I want us all to see the possibility of resurrection for us, for everyone, for this sad and deadly world so enamored of the negative. I want us all to be able to see a different life, a new life, filled with joy. Enough joy to give a divine challenge to everything that clings to cruelty and callousness. Enough joy to give a divine challenge to the way of death. Enough joy to give a divine challenge to everything that reeks of hate, to everything that normalizes violence and normalizes negativity. Because this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it. And it's sure not going to take it away. Amen? Amen. This joy that I have.